Torah guardian, speaking the absolute truth. Torah nation. Shalom, shalom, shalom. Yasharal and Yahuda, grafted in Gentiles into the body of Hamashiach. I'm back at it again, doing what I love to do, preaching and teaching the witness of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. He's made my desires pure. Listen, we're listening to none other than Hezekiah. Song is entitled Pure. He's made my desires pure. I don't own the rights to this music. Listen. He's established me in his witness, giving me his Ruach HaKodesh, putting his love in me, him and the Father, the Ruach HaKodesh in me. He has made my desires pure. Yahusha has established me in this Melchizedek priesthood. He has offered up his blood as the lamb. Listen. 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 Abba, make me pure. I don't want the things of the world. I want love. I want peace. I want everlasting life. Listen, listen, listen. Listen, I want my people in the land. Listen.
Come back to the laws, it ain't no other option. Don't want no hate up in my heart, not over no doctrine. I want the fruits of the spirit, y'all could keep the nonsense. I had to renew my mind, I had to free my conscience. I had to confess my sins, I had to be honest. I want the Ruach HaKodesh to come into me.
Listen!
I only trust the Father, not the enemy.
Bro, you gotta have a Ruach HaKodesh. Yahuwah, in the name of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach, I give you praise. Yahuwah, I pray right now that you take the reins of my lips and the reins of my tongue. Yahuwah, I pray that you would lead me and guide me in this witness, that I may be that you may use me as the pen of a ready writer, inscribing into the hearts of those who have an ear to hear. Yahuwah, I pray right now in the name of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach that your people would receive the witness. Yahuwah, I pray right now in the name of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach that I would not cause anyone to stumble, anyone to come up lame, anyone to be turned out of the way. Yahuwah, no. In the name of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach, Yahuwah, my desire is that your word will go forth. The word that you gave Yahusha, the word that you gave to Yahukanan, you cannot record it so that I might have it in this dispensation in order to know how to be restored, how to be back in, how I may gain interest into the kingdom. Yahweh, your people need to understand this. I praise you. Yahweh, let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight. I speak a word of healing to your people. A word of a ruach, a word of deliverance. Yes, I take authority over Hasatan's attack over their minds. In the name of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach, I speak the word of Yahusha and say to them, be free and receive the witness of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. Hallelujah. In the name of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach, listen. He's made my desires pure. He's giving me the Ruach HaKodesh. I can't do it without it. I can't enter into his kingdom. I can't be established in this witness without it. Listen. Song is again entitled Pure by Hezekiah, right? I don't own the rights to this music. Listen, man of Yah, woman of Yah, listen, we going in. And we are going in, and we're going in to declare the witness of Yahuwah and Yahusha. Yeah. We are going in with the understanding that Yahuwah has called me to inform you that you must receive his witness. There's no way around it. There's no way around this witness. You got to receive this witness. Listen, bro, there is no way around it. You got to receive this witness. Bro, there is no way around this. You've got to receive this witness. You've got to receive this witness. You ain't going to make it without it. You ain't going to make it without it. Listen, there's nothing to turn to without the witness of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. There's no way to return without the witness of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. Yahusha has replaced the Aaron priesthood order. Excuse me. There's no way to return. Hebrews 1. We're in the book of Hebrews. And again, as you well know, I'm going to be in Hebrews until Yahuwah tells me otherwise. And you know, if he tells me to go through Hebrews and then go back through it again, and then go back through it again, I'm going to do whatever he tells me to do to wake you up. Yeah. Because, you know, Yahuwah's got a remnant that he has to establish in the erects. He has a remnant that he has to listen. And you know what? You have to understand this ruachally. You got to see the picture ruachally. If you don't have the ruach HaKodesh, you ain't gonna understand this. You're not gonna get this. You're not gonna understand it. It's all about establishment of a kingdom in the erects. You ain't gonna understand that. You ain't gonna get that. Right? Without the ruach HaKodesh, you ain't gonna understand that the things that we had went through were just designed as shadows to get us to the place where Yahuwah could restore us back to Adam and Havah with his Ruach HaKodesh and bring us into the kingdom. You got to understand that. You ain't going to get that without the Ruach HaKodesh. You know, you're not going to get the sevenfold doctrine of creation. You're not going to receive the Ruach of wisdom and revelation and the knowledge of him. Without the Ruach HaKodesh, you ain't going to receive the sevenfold spirits of Yahuwah. Listen, you can't do this. You can't do this without it. And Paul was trying to get his Hebrews brothers and sisters to understand, listen, you got to understand Yahuwah's been speaking. He's been speaking through the prophets at different times to our fathers. He has, right? And in these last days, he's spoken unto us by his son, Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. Yahusha Ha'Mashiach is the son of Elohiym. He has spoken through him. The Besoros in the Torah is Yahuwah speaking to us through his son, Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. He is in the volume of the book. He is the one in whom Yahuwah had declared would bring forth the witness. Through the word made flesh. Yahusha's purpose was multi-purposeful. His coming was to establish the kingdom. His coming was to reestablish the priesthood. His coming to establish a people, giving them the Ruach HaKodesh to make them participants in his kingdom. Listen, Yahushua was the lamb. Yahushua was the high priest. Yahushua constructed the tabernacle originally in the Shamayim. Yahushua is everything. He is the Melchizedek priesthood. Bro, you got to understand it. He's in the volume of the book. Yahushua is in the volume of the book. Hebrews 1. Elohiym at sundry times and in diverse manners spake to times past unto the fathers by the prophets, haveth in these last days spoken unto us by Yahusha Ha'Mashiach, Yah salvation. He has spoken to us by his son. In that name that every knee is going to bow to and every tongue is going to swear to, that name. Yeah. Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. You have to understand, man. Yahuwah, allow your people to receive the witness and understand how critically important it is to be established in the Melchizedek priesthood. Listen, Yahusha came, right, to establish his kingdom in the Eretz, right? Yahusha knew that he must work the work of him that has sent him while it is day, because night comes. Yeah, he's going to bruise the head of Hasatan, but Hasatan is going to bruise his heel. He knew that darkness was going to come. He knew it. He knew that the tentacles of Hasatan in the Roman Catholic Church, that man that was revealed, that would burn down the house, he knew the darkness was going to come. That's why he established his kingdom for the end time recipients of the kingdom. Listen, it went dark. After Yahusha Ha'Mashiach, it went dark. It went dark. After that, in the 6th week, all those who are in it shall be darkened. All of those who are in what? In the 5th week, in verse 9, the latter part, in the 5th week, during its completion, the house of glory, the kingdom, the dominion, Yahusha Ha'Mashiach, right? Dominion shall be established, erected. It shall be established, erected, right? And after that, in the 6th week, all those who are in it shall be darkened. Shall be darkened. Shall be darkened. The hearts of all of them shall be forgetful of wisdom. They are going to forget the Ruach. I mean, they're going to forget the witness. They are going to become darkened, right? Right? And they're going to be forgetful of wisdom. And a man shall arise and come forth, and during its completion he shall burn the house of dominion with fire, and all the race, the Hebrews, of the elect root, of the elect root, the elect root, the 12 tribes, Yahudah, the elect root, right, shall be dispersed, darkened. Yahusha knew that the apostles and the prophets had to leave record. They had to give a record for us. They had to give a record for us. Yahusha knew that he had to tie the original covenant to the renewed covenant. Because it is in the renewed covenant after Melchizedek priesthood order that he was going to be able to establish us in the kingdom. Because he knew, because it would become darkened, look, that priesthood was fading away. Who would be available to offer a sacrifice? Because Aaron's was flawed. The priesthood was flawed. The Pharisees, the Sadducees, the priesthood was flawed, and it faded away. It decayed. It died. He had to leave a record. The record is the Besoros. The record is the Acts of the Apostles. The record is Romans, Corinthians 1 and 2, Galatians, Thessalonians 1 and 2. Listen, these are records that tie us to the original covenant. It shows us what is to happen in the last days. These are the last days. Yahushua was in the last days, but he knew it was going to become darkened. They had to establish a record. They don't want you to accept the record. They don't want you to accept everything from Matthew to Revelation because they want to say that it is not of the entire Torah. But listen, Yahusha knew what he was doing. You don't know what you're doing because you don't have the Ruach HaKodesh. Hebrew, Tanakh, Torah, Yahuwah, you know Yahuwah only. You don't know. See, you have to receive the Ruach HaKodesh. You got to understand the doctrine. The doctrine of understanding comes through the Ruach HaKodesh. Yahuwah and Yahusha knew what they were doing. He knew that Paul would write letters. He knew that James would write letters. He knew that Peter would write letters. He knew that Paul would write letters to the Hebrews. He knew Yahushua would write revelations that would correspond to Daniel and the prophets. He knew that it would correspond with Enoch. He knew because it is his fivefold manifested doctrine, his sevenfold manifested doctrine of creation. He knew this. That's why you can't allow yourself to be swayed from this witness. You can't allow these devils to shake you. You can't. These devils are appointed to death. Right? They're appointed to destruction. And Yahuwah is showing you he's purging them. He's showing you the separation. He's showing you the separation. Those who receive the witness are going to be separate from those who don't receive the witness. Listen, you need to receive this Besorah, this Torah that Yahuwah is giving me to give to you because it is his witness. You got to understand the renewed covenant was for you. Listen, he knew that you were going to need to know what the Ruach HaKodesh looks like. Right? Because you ain't going to recognize it. You're not going to recognize it in the Christian church. Right? They imitated it. They tried to let you believe that what they were moving in was the Ruach HaKodesh, but it wasn't because it wasn't built upon the Torah of truth. It wasn't built upon the righteous word of Yahuwah. It was not built upon the Ruach HaKodesh. It was built on Catholicism. They went forth and slayed and murdered in the name of Jesus and the Lord. They didn't come with the witness of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. They came to destroy and to conquer. It morphed, but it's the same Ruach. It changed, but it's the same Ruach. See, what we have in the Ruach HaKodesh, this ain't that. This ain't that. You know, again, I got family and friends that are in Christianity, but this ain't that. And until they receive the witness of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach and recognize that they're the people of Yahuwah and that what they're in is wrong, right? I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is. That's why I preach this Besorah. I hope that they listen to it, but if they don't, it's okay because they sealed anyway. They're sealed because only those who won't receive the witness are going to accept this message. And listen, it's only a remnant. Listen, it's only a remnant. It's only a remnant. So Yahusha knew. That's why he established this renewed covenant. That's why he had these apostles and prophets. That's why he had these people write this stuff down. That's why he had them write it down so that we could remember, so that we can establish emunah in this. That's why he told Peter, listen, man, blessed are those who's going to believe and have not seen. He knew that we was going to receive this witness, right? Not having physically laid eyes on him. He knew that the Ruach HaKodesh was going to come in us and these signs was going to follow us. Who walk in this witness, who receive the Ruach HaKodesh. The signs are going to follow us. We gonna cast out devils. We gonna speak with new tongues. We gonna take up serpents. If we drink any deadly thing, it shall not hurt us. We gonna lay hands on the sick and they gonna recover. Listen, these signs are going to follow us who receive the witness. And listen, these signs have to follow. I'm gonna tell you something. These signs have followed me in my entire life. because I received the Ruach HaKodesh as a young man. Yeah, I was in Christianity, but I didn't ascribe to Christianity. I ascribed to the Torah, the Besorah. I told you who I wanted it, just like it was in the book of Acts. And he gave it to me. What signs following? Listen, I'm telling you, you better not be swayed. You better not be caught up. You better not be taken. Paul was like, listen, he hath in these last days spoken to us by Yahusha Ha'Mashiach, whom he appointed heir of all things. You don't have to believe it. It don't matter. It's a fact. Right? And he has made him, and by whom he has also made the world. Right? Yahusha. We're getting through it quick. He says, now chapter 2, verse 1, he says, therefore we ought to give the most earnest heed. We need to pay attention to this. That the things which we have heard at any time, we should let them slip. We who have received this witness and have heard this Besorah and this Torah, and if we don't give heed to it and let it slip, guess what? There's accountability still. You're going to be held accountable, right? For the word spoken by angels was steadfast, and every transgression and disobedience received justice and had wages, right? Was received just recompense of reward, right? How shall we escape? How shall you escape, Hebrew? If you neglect so great a Yeshua, how you going to escape? How you going to escape if you neglect the only high priest order that exists that causes you to be turned? How are you going to escape wrath? How are you going to escape judgment? Right? How are you going to escape having refused the witnesses? How are you going to escape having refused to listen to what Dawid said in the 110th division of Psalms? Yahuwah said unto Yahusha, sit down on my right hand until I make thy enemies thy footstool. How are you going to escape? How are you going to escape Psalms 110 and 4 when Yahuwah hath sworn and will not repent concerning Yahusha Ha'Mashiach, thou art a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek? How are you going to escape if you neglect this? How are you going to escape if you neglect what he has said in Psalms, the 2nd division, the 7th verse? I will declare a decree, I will swear a swear, I will declare a decree. Yahuwah hath said unto me, thou art my son. He's speaking in reference to Yahusha. Dawid was speaking in reference to Yahusha. He says, this day have I begotten thee. Listen, how are you going to escape these witnesses? How are you going to escape what Yahuwah has said? How are you going to escape how are you going to escape the 76th division of Psalms where he says, in Yehuda is Eluah's known. In Yehuda is Eluah known. His name is great in Yasharal. How you going to escape that, right? How you going to escape that? In Salem, in Jerusalem, in peace, also in the tabernacle, it's his tabernacle. How you going to escape this, right? And his dwelling place in Zion. How are you going to escape this word? How you going to escape it? You know, how you going to escape? How you going to escape what he says in Genesis? In the volume of the book, how you going to escape? When he says, Yehuda, thou art whom thy brothers shall praise. Thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies. Thy father's children shall bow before thee. Who? Listen, Yehuda. Yehuda is a lion's whelp. And from the prey, my son, thou hast gone up. He stooped down and crouched as a lion. And as an old lion, who shall rouse him up? Right? The scepter shall not depart from Yehuda. The scepter, the kingly, thronely, shall not depart from Yehuda. Right? Or a lawgiver, or a Torah giver, or a priest, right? Shall not depart from Yehuda. Shall not, for nor lawgiver from between his feet until Shiloh come. Shiloh is tranquility. To he who belongs tranquility. Who? Yahusha. Yahusha brought tranquility. That tranquility came in restoration. That restoration came as a result of his sacrifice. His sacrifice was offered up by him as the priest after the order of Melchizedek in the house, in the holies of holies. How you gonna escape, bro? How you gonna escape? How you gonna get away? You can't escape. How you gonna escape? So great a cloud of witnesses that has been delivered, right? Listen, Yahuwah, look at Genesis 14 and 18. And Melchizedek, king of Jerusalem, or king of peace, brought forth bread and wine. He cut the covenant. He had a covenant he brought bread and wine. He was the priest of the Most High Elohiym. He was the high priest of Elohiym. How you gonna escape? These are witnesses. Listen, line upon line, precept upon precept, and this is just a drop in the bucket, right? And he blessed him and said, "Blessed be Abram of the Most High Elohiym, possessor of the heavens and the earth. And blessed be the Most High Elohiym, which hath delivered thine enemies into thy hands." Who is this? Who is blessing IVRIYM? Who is establishing a covenant with him with bread and wine? Yahusha said, "This is the covenant. This is the renewed covenant in my blood. This is the renewed covenant in bread. Take and eat." Listen. These are witnesses, bro. These are witnesses. How you gonna escape? If you neglect the witnesses that are in the prophets that were recorded, how you gonna escape? How you gonna escape, bro? How you gonna escape if you neglect so great a Yeshua, which was at first began to be spoken of Yahuwah and was confirmed unto us by the ones who were heard it? Yahusha brought this Besorah. Yahusha brought this Besorah. But even before Yahuwah brought this Besorah to our fathers as they left out of Mitzrayim. And he gave it to our Moshe. And Moshe gave it to the people. And for 40 years, they rebelled against this Torah that Yahuwah gave. 40 years. 40 years rebelled. 40 years. Yahuwah gave them the Torah. 40 years they rebelled. Right? Moshe, not on the mountain, but for 40 days, having gotten to Mount Horeb or Mount Sinai, whichever one that was first. The point is, he was up in the mountain with Yahuwah. Right? 40 days. It was 40 days. Up in the mountains. People like, come to Aaron. Aaron, look, we ain't heard from Moshe. We need an idol. Moshe, the future high priest of Elohiym. Right? The consciousness of sin is ever present. Consciousness of sin is ever present, which was a witness to what he did. That's why the order needed to be replaced, because this was going to be like priests, like people. Moshe went and made a calf, a golden calf for the people. Yet Yahuwah established him as the high priest because he had established Levi as the priesthood. Yahuwah knew what was going to happen in the priesthood because the consciousness of sin was always present. They were going to always be flawed. Point and example. They were going to always be flawed. That's why them sacrifices that they offered it was just a shadow. It wasn't something that was going to establish these people forever. It was temporary until Yahusha, at the order of Melchizedek, who had a sacrifice that Yahuwah was pleased with, because he was tired of He was never pleased with the blood of goats and calves and lambs and turtle doves and whatever they use as sacrifice. Lord, you ain't going to escape, bro. You can't neglect the witness. He says, wherefore, chapter 3, wherefore, holy brethren, partakers of the heavenly calling, consider the apostle and high priest of our profession, Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. Yahusha Ha'Mashiach is the high priest. Yahusha Ha'Mashiach didn't take this calling on himself. Yahuwah had declared it. He was the high priest forever. He has sworn it. Yahusha has sworn and will not repent. You are a high priest forever after the order of Melchizedek concerning Yahusha Ha'Mashiach, right? Concerning Yahusha Ha'Mashiach is the high priest, right? So Moshe's priesthood was fallow. It was faulty. It was faulty. Yahusha's high priest was sworn to by Yahuwah. Yahusha's high priesthood was sworn, and he won't repent, that Yahusha was a high priest forever, after the order of Melchizedek, right? He was the scepter and the lawgiver in Yehuda. Yahusha, right? His priesthood was better because it was his priesthood that gave way to Moshe's priesthood shadow. Aaron's priesthood, that was a shadow, right? It's a shadow, right? It was a priesthood that was established for people that had flaws. That's why it was just a shadow, right? Right? They could never do what the original did, right? Right? Yeah, it would never be the original. There would be elements to it that was perfected, right? Because the Torah was perfect, right? Right? The service, the orders, the statutes, the judgments, perfect, right? But the Levitical priesthood, that was flawed. Had to be amended. Had to be amended. It's part of the plan, Hebrew. You got to understand this. You got to understand this. Right? Right? Yahushua built the house. Yahushua built the tabernacle. Yahushua established the Torah. Yahushua was the Word made flesh. Yahushua said whatever his Father says. Listen, he was the Word made flesh. He was the Torah. He said what the Father said. Right? When Yahuwah said, let there be light, Yahushua said what the Father said and brought it to pass by the power of the Ruach HaKodesh. He's like, oh no, man, now what you talking about? What? Okay, because you got the bruise. Just they just don't want to, look. John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Yah, and the Word was Yah. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was Yahuwah, and the Word was with Yahuwah. Right? All things were in the same, and the same was in the beginning with Yahuwah. It was in the beginning with Yahuwah. Right? All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. What are the witnesses in the Shamayim? Abba, Father, the Word, and the Ruach HaKodesh. The Word is Yahusha. John 14:1 and 14. And the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory as the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. The Word, the Torah. Listen, Hebrew. You got to get a clue. You got to get a clue. Moshe gave the Torah. Yahushua gave Moshe the Torah. Listen, Yahuwah and Yahusha and the Ruach HaKodesh, they're one. See, you ain't gonna even be able to grasp that that without the Ruach HaKodesh, because the Ruach HaKodesh is Yahuwah and Yahusha in you. So you're going to bear witness with this whole idea of Yahusha and Yahuwah and the Ruach HaKodesh moving in such oneness. Because the Ruach HaKodesh is in you. Yahuwah is in you. The Father is in you. Yahusha is in you. The Ruach HaKodesh is in you. The Tabernacle is you. The Tabernacle is passed away in the Eretz. The tabernacle was established for the priest to go in to make atonement. It's faded away. It's decayed. It's no longer here. It's no longer here. It is no longer here. Because it was just a shadow. Because when Yahusha came, the shadow was satisfied. The priesthood order shifted to Melchizedek. It wasn't the Torah that changed. It was the order that changed. You have to understand the order was everything. Listen, like priests, like people. That's why the people would never be righteous because there was a consciousness of sin in them. Aaron was the same Aaron, right, that made the calf, that received the high priesthood. He was the same Aaron. There was nothing on the inside of Aaron that was changed. His consciousness didn't evolve. He was still the same Aaron. He just did a lot of washing. He did a lot of sprinkling and a lot of sacrifices, right, to cover him. But it didn't do anything for the consciousness of sin. Brutal, you gotta get a clue. Chapter 4. Let us therefore fear, lest the promise being left to us entering into his rest, any of you should seem to come short of it. Listen, Hebrew, especially you who have received a witness, you better take hold of this, and you better receive this, and you better walk in this, and you better accept this revelation, this truth, because it is life, and you got to keep this before you day and night. You got to meditate this. You got to walk this. You got to believe this. You got to trust this. You have to receive this witness, right? You have to. And you have to mix it with emunah. And then when the Ruach HaKodesh comes on the inside of you, it's going to quicken it. It's going to make it alive, and you're going to understand it. You're going to get it because you're going to receive his Ruach HaKodesh. See, I'm convinced that a lot of people are so attached to what the Christian church portrayed as the Ruach HaKodesh, they're confused in what it looks like. Oh yeah, they're confused in what it looks like because they still believe that it's kind of what you're seeing in the Christian church. And it ain't that. It's not that. It's not that. You got to receive this witness. You got to receive this witness. You got to receive this witness. Right? He says, listen, this witness comes with the rest. It comes with Shiloh. It comes the gathering of the people. Right? The gathering of the people is us entering into the rest. Yahuwah has always had a remnant. Always had a remnant. Yahuwah always had a remnant. He always had a people that he knew that would speak his Besorah and his Torah and receive his witness. Yahuwah always had a remnant. Excuse me. Got to receive his witness. Hebrew, you got to receive his witness. You got to be established in his witness. He gets in the 7th verse of that 4th chapter again. He limited a certain day, saying in Dawid, in the Psalms, today, after so long a time, as it is said, today, if you hear my voice, harden not your heart. For if Yahusha had given them rest, then would then would he not afterwards have spoken of another day? There's a rest. There's a rest. There's a gathering of the people. There's an establishment of an eternal rest for the people of Yahuwah who have received the witness, who are established in the witness, right? There, therefore, is a rest to the people of Elohiym, those who have received the witness of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. For he that is entered into his rest, he is also have ceased from his own works as Elohiym did his. Listen, look, I've ceased from what I do. It's about what Yahushua wants, and that's to reach people with the witness. Chapter 5. Every high priest taken from among men is ordained for men in things pertaining to Elohiym, that he may offer both gifts and sacrifices for sin. Priesthood has faded away. Yahuwah called Aaron, who he knew still would potentially make a calf, because his consciousness of sin was ever present. His priesthood was flawed. He knew Aaron's son would offer strange fire. Right? He knew Eli would be wicked. He'd get so fat that he falls over in his chair and breaks his neck. He knew his sons was gonna march off with the Ark of the Covenant, going for wicked people, wicked Israelites, thinking they're gonna beat the enemies, and they died. Listen, the priesthood was wicked, y'all. It's flawed. See, bro, how you gonna turn? It's impossible for you to be established in the Torah only, because the Torah has been amended concerning the priesthood. It's impossible for you to turn in this day and age apart from turning to a Mashiach, because the order has been amended. He says, who have compassion on the ignorant and on them that are out of the way, for he himself also was compassed with the same infirmities. He has the same sins, same limitations. For by reason hereof he ought to, as for the people, so also for himself, offer for sins, the priesthood, right? And no man taketh this honor unto himself, but he that is called of Elohiym, as Aaron. So you got to be called of Elohiym to operate in the priesthood. But Yahuwah says the priesthood is done. Yahusha is a priest forever at the order of Melchizedek. Yahusha is king and priest. He is the scepter that will not depart from Yehuda. He is the lawgiver. He is the Torah giver. He is the teacher of the Torah, which he did for 3 years while he was with his disciples and the people in the synagogues. He taught Torah. He said, so also Hamashiach glorified not himself to be made a high priest, but he that said unto him, thou art my son, this day have I begotten thee. He said that. He said that in Psalms 2. I declare a decree, Psalms 2 and 7, that Yahuwah have said unto me, Yahusha Ha'Mashiach, thou art my son, this day have I begotten thee. Hebrew. You know, do you think, listen, it's amazing how Brews think. You don't have the Ruach HaKodesh, right? Because they can't make the connection that's Ruachal. They can't make the connection that's Ruachal. They refuse to receive it in Emunah, because it takes faith to receive the witness of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach, right? Yahusha said that if you receive it by faith, your reward is going to be greater than those who've actually witnessed it. But you won't receive it because it's not mixed. You won't receive it because it ain't mixed with Emunah. Thou art my son. He's quoting Psalms. The original covenant. This day have I begotten thee. He says, and he said that also in another place, thou art a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. Again, Psalms 110:4. And Yahuwah have sworn and will not repent. This is a decree. This will never be disannulled. Thou art a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. Let's go on. Chapter 6. Hebrews. You need to stop repenting from dead works and get established in the witness of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. Because you can't taste of the goodness of Yahuwah. You can't say that if you taste the goodness of Yahuwah and made partakers of the Ruach HaKodesh, and have tasted the good word of Yahuwah and the power of the world to come. The power of the world to come. Yahuwah has put the power of the world to come in you. That's why the signs to follow you to believe. The power of the world to come. He's put the vibranium in you. Wakanda's vibranium. He's put the Ruach HaKodesh in you. Listen, you know what, too? You know. How can I say this without being insulting? I mean, because Yahuwah has made a distinction, even in the races, right? I mean, there's documented proof, even when it comes to the number of DNA strands in certain races of people, right? And how in Hebrews, right, they have determined that we have more strands, right? We technically have superior genetics. Our melanin alone makes us genetically superior, right? Right? Not in a way in which we are, and this is the thing about the people of Alua, we tend to be some of the most humblest people, right? Right? But we're always made to be less than everybody, right? But in fact, genetically, we're superior, right? Can you imagine what we become when we have the Ruach HaKodesh in us now? And the Ruach HaKodesh in us without measure at the point at which we're changed? Now I understand that, listen, there are other nations that are going to have received Yahusha's witness and the Ruach HaKodesh. And again, they're going to be as superior as us. I mean, it's going to be the same. I mean, we're going to all have the Ruach HaKodesh, but listen, the creativity that we have, athleticism that we have, right? Right? The DNA, I mean, and again, this is not a knock on my Gentile brothers and sisters that have received the witness of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach, because I love you. I don't look at myself as being superior in that respect, right? No, because the Ruach HaKodesh in you and the Ruach HaKodesh in me functions the same. I mean, there's different gifts that are given to us in the Ruach HaKodesh, but the Ruach HaKodesh that you receive with power comes with power. But it also has gifts attached to it that may be different from one another. But the Ruach HaKodesh with the evidence, it's the signs that follow, that's for everybody who receives the Ruach HaKodesh. Right? And we all have that, right? But Yahuwah has engineered us. He selected us for a purpose. And you need to understand it. And if you've tasted of the heavenly gift, the Ruach HaKodesh, man or woman of Yahuwah, listen here. That's why they want to vaccine you with an RNA vaccine, so that they can profane the genetic DNA structure. Right? That's why the push was for minorities to get it. Yeah, vaccine. Yeah. RNAi, DNA, Renee, whatever it is. That's why the push was. Because they needed you to get it. They could alter you. Put a limitation on Yahuwah's genetics in you. Listen. There's consequences if you walk away from this power. There's consequences. The Melchizedek priesthood, Yahusha, king of Salem, right? Chapter 7. Yahusha. IVRIYM. Melchizedek priesthood. And I'm going to pound that in. For this Melchizedek, king of Salem, of Jerusalem, of peace, the priest of the Most High. He was a high priest of the Most High. He's the priest of the Most High. There was only one, Melchizedek, and he was a high priest. Returning from the slaughter of kings, whom also IVRIYM gave 1/10 of his tithes of all, first being the interpreted king of righteousness, king of Salem, king of peace, which is the king of peace. Yahushua is the prince of peace. He is the king of peace. Salem. Without father, without mother, without descendancy, having neither the beginning of days nor the end of life, made like unto the son of Elohiym. Make it in the likeness of the son of Elohiym. Abideth the priest continually, Melchizedek priesthood continues. Come on, man, you better get a clue. Chapter 8. Now the things which we have spoken, this is the sum of it all. We have a high priest that is passing to the Shamaims. And he sat at the right hand of the majesty on high. Sit thou on my right hand. Yahusha said unto Yahuwah, Psalms 110:1, sit thou on my right hand until I make thine enemies thy footstool. For Yahuwah shall send Yahusha the rod of his strength out of Zion, and he will rule thou in the midst of his enemies. Yahusha. He is the minister of the sanctuary and the true tabernacle, which Adonai pitched and not man. His tabernacle is a true tabernacle in the Shamaim, which he pitched. Which he pitched. He pitched it. Listen. He was ordained. For every high priest is ordained to offer gifts and sacrifices, whereof it was necessity that this man have somewhat also to offer. He had to do it too. Right? He is the mediator of a renewed covenant on better promises. Chapter 9. Verily, the first covenant had also ordinances and divine services. It had ordinances and divine services. Again, Hebrew. This, I wanted to be so burnt into your heart and into your mind that every time you read this, it is alive. It's redundant. But it's in order, right? The first priesthood had ordinances and divine services and a worldly tabernacle, right? And there was tabernacles made of the first, right? Wherein was a candlestick and all of these things that were attached to it, right? And it had the holiest of alls, right? The most holy and the holies of all, right? Right? And it had all of these things in the Ark of the Covenant. Aaron's rod, which budded the tablets of stone, right? Pot, manna, right? All of these were in the Ark of the Covenant, right? Had overlaid with cherubs, glory, shadow, the mercy seat, right? All the things were shadows. Shadows. They weren't the original. They were shadows. They were generated by Yahusha. No, they were told to Moshe by Yahusha or Yahusha, right? And they wrote them down. And they took what they had that was earthly and carnal and constructed them. And in order for them to be usable, they had to be sprinkled with water and blood by Moshe, the lawgiver, and the priest. Had to sprinkle blood on it. He had to sprinkle blood on the tablets. He had to sprinkle blood on the people. Because the Ruach HaKodesh hadn't been manifested. He had to do all of this because the Ruach HaKodesh hadn't been manifested. Or what preceded the giving of the Ruach HaKodesh, the establishment of this eternal covenant on the inside of you. Once and for all. Chapter 10. For the law, having a shadow of good things to come, is not that very image of the thing, that never with those sacrifices. So we're speaking specifically of the sacrifice aspects of the Torah, not the Torah in its entirety, but the Torah that is attached to the priesthood, because the priesthood is what kept the Torah in play. Listen, they had to offer up sacrifices for the people in order for the people to keep the Torah. And the people couldn't keep the Torah, right? So they had to offer up sacrifice to cover for the sins of people who couldn't keep the Torah. Because the Torah was the righteous guide The Torah was the righteous word of Elohiym that constantly was speaking, obey me, obey me, obey me, keep me, keep me, keep me. And the people was like, their consciousness could not do it. So Moshe and Aaron and the priest was constantly washing every day and sacrificing every day and burning offerings every day and sprinkling themselves, and they was doing it all the time. They were doing it all the time because consciousness wasn't purged. That's why he was able to do the wickedness. Let me see something here. Going somewhere else. Right? Now Hosea says it this way. Right? He says it this way. 4:1. He says, hear the word of Yahuwah, O children of Yasharal, for Yahuwah has a controversy with you. He has a problem with you. He has a controversy. That Hebrew word controversy means he has strife. He has a dispute. He has a quarrel with you. Right? He has a quarrel with you. A case of the law. A case at law. He has a quarrel with you. He has a controversy with you. Haveth a controversy with the inhabitants of the land, because there is no Torah. Thy Torah. The truth. There's no truth. There's no Torah. Right? Or there is no obedience. There's no firmness, right? That word is
Strong's
Ameth.
H571. Emeth.
Ameth.
Emeth.
Or emeth, right? There's no firmness. There's no faithfulness, right? There's no faithfulness, right? There's no firmness, right? There's no firmness. Aaron wasn't firm with the people at the mountain when they came to him and said, listen, we want another God. Build us a idol. Make us an idol. There was no firmness with him. He didn't say at any time, no, I'm not going to do that. Yahuwah has brought us up to this mountain. We are going to wait for Moshe because we're going to do the right thing. There was no firmness. There was no sureness. There was no reliability. There was no stability. Right? Right? This is Hosea now. Hosea's, right? For mercy nor knowledge of Elohiym in the land. Right? Right? This is what Yahuwah said was going to happen in Deuteronomy. He says in Deuteronomy, he says, and Yahuwah spoke unto Moshe and said, behold, thou shalt sleep with thy fathers. Deuteronomy 31:16. And with thy fathers. And this people will rise up and go a-whoring after other strange, after the elves of the strangers of the land, whither they go in among, and will forsake me and break my covenant, which I have made with them. That's what he said now, right? So in Hosea, he's saying, listen, there's no truth. There's no firmness. There's no firmness in the land, right? There's no Torah. No mercy. No Torah. No knowledge. No Torah of Elohiym in the land. By swearing and lying and killing and stealing and committing an adultery and breaking out, the blood touches the blood. These oaths. Therefore shall the land mourn, and everyone that dwelleth therein shall languish with the beasts of the fields and the fowls of the air and the heavens. Yea, the fish of the sea shall be taken away. Right? Because there's no truth. There's no firmness. There is no priest that will keep the Levitical order because they can't, because their consciousness of sin makes them flawed. He said, yet let no man strive nor reprove another. For thy people are as they that strive with the priest. Right? Right? He said, let no man strive. Right? Let no man strive. Right? No contend with words, quarrel, make complaints. Right? Let no man strive. Right? And then he says, nor reprove another. Right? Nor strive, nor reprove another. Make a decision, to rebuke. Ain't nobody correcting nobody. Ain't nobody dealing with quarrels. Right? Listen, the Levitical priesthood was an order that was supposed to be provide leadership in Torah. They was to provide correction. They was supposed to provide direction. Right? For the people, they that strive with the priest. They fight with the priest, right? He said, therefore shalt thou fall in the day, and the prophets also shall fall with thee in the night, and I will destroy thy mother, right? My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, right? Because the priests ain't giving them what they need. The priests ain't doing their job. The priests ain't getting it done. Right? Right? He said, because thou hast rejected the Torah, I will also reject thee. Right? Thou shalt be no priest, because the priests have rejected the Torah. They ain't doing right by the Torah. Kohathnius and Phineas and what's his name? Eli. They weren't doing right by the Torah. That's why the Levitical priesthood had to be amended. Bro. That's why it had to be amended. He said, listen, therefore, no, he said, no. He says, for my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will reject you. Because you've rejected Torah. You've rejected the statutes. You've rejected instruction, right? Thee that thou shalt be no priest. You ain't going to be no priest to me. Seeing thou hast forgotten the Torah of Elohiym, I will also forget my children. Oh, yeah. Bro, so listen. How are you going to return? He says right here, thou shalt be no priest. You ain't going to have no high priest. I will forget my children. I will forget the children of Yahshua. Listen. As they were increased, so they sinned against me. What did he tell Moshe? Moshe, you gave these people the Torah, right? For 40 years. And they rebelled against it and died in the wilderness. They didn't do what you told them to do. And I long suffered them, right? Waiting for the die off till generation come up. But they didn't even prepare that generation. They didn't even circumcise them. Grown men getting circumcised. With Joshua before they go into the land. What? That's why it's priest. That's why you had to change the priesthood. He says, as they increase, so they in their sins against me. Will I change their glory into shame? They eat up the sin. They eat up the sin of my people, and they set their hearts on their iniquity. The priest. He said, listen, my people, verse 6 in that 4th chapter, are destroyed for lack of knowledge. The priest ain't teaching the people. And because they have rejected knowledge, I will reject them, thee, and thou shalt be no priest. He's talking to the priest. I'm rejecting you. I'm rejecting your priesthood. I need a priest who is going to be at the order of Melchizedek. Listen, matter of fact, I'm swearing and I'm not repenting that Adonai Yahusha is a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. He's seated right now at the right hand, waiting till his enemy's footstool. Right? And if you don't receive his priesthood, you don't receive his witness, you don't receive his Torah, guess what? You ain't entering into my rest. You aren't going into Shiloh. Yeah, you ain't being gathered. He said, listen. As they were increased, so they sinned against me, the priest. Therefore will I charge their glory into their shame. Oh yeah. The glory of the priesthood is going to be your shame. They eat up the sins of the people. They eat offerings. They take advantage of the people. They set their hearts to do iniquity. The priest, Hophni and Phinehas, Samuel's son, was a priest. He says, and there shall be like people, like priests. That's why the Levitical priesthood was just a shadow. Because it didn't do anything with the consciousness of sin. Yahusha's priesthood order took away sin. And there shall be like people, like priests. And I will punish them for their ways and reward them for their doings. For they shall eat and not have enough. They shall commit whoredom and shall not increase, because they have left off to take heed to Adonai Yahuwah. Whoredom and wine and new wine take away the heart. Listen, that's the wickedness of the priesthood. That's why it had to be amended. That's why the covenant, the testament, had to be renewed. It had to be renewed because the priesthood that was designed to teach and to restore the people to the right relationship with Yahusha with the right relationship with Yahuwah had become foul. Yeah. It's wicked. It's wicked. It's wicked. And Yahuwah knew it was just a shadow. But see, you know what? Yahuwah was showing us what the kingdom was going to look like. Right? Because there's going to be judgment for those who don't receive the witness. Yeah. There's going to be a king that sits on the throne of Jerusalem, on the throne of peace. His name is Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. Yeah, he's that scepter that shall not depart from Yahudah. He is that lawgiver, that priesthood after the order of Melchizedek, that word made flesh that dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory. That word that was with Yahuwah, that was Yahuwah, the same was in the beginning with Yahuwah. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. That word, Yahusha. That Torah, Yahusha. Yeah. unto him the gathering of the people be. Yeah, that word, that Torah, Yahusha. Yeah. So, it's what it is. It's the witness. It is the witness. It's what it is. It's the witness. Gotta receive the witness. Hebrews. For the law having a shadow of good things to come. The law is good. The shadow was the priesthood. The good thing to come was Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. Because because in his priesthood, there is no remembrance of sin. See, listen, you ain't gonna get this. You ain't gonna get this in the Christian church, because they don't have the revelation. They don't have the witness of the Ruach HaKodesh in them. You know, they say, oh, the Holy Spirit. Listen, you know, I told you, when I drive Uber, I listen to this right radio station, and I can listen to it for only so much, because they just so caught up in themselves being Christians and the proper parents, right? And they don't like anything to do with anything to come against Ashkenaz, right? And they combined the Judeo-Christian, right? When in reality, Ashkenaz don't even accept them. Don't even accept them like that. But they are under that delusion, right? So that's why they send millions and millions and millions of dollars, tax dollars, and all that over there. Right? They can't stand us. Right? But they love Jesus. They love Jesus. God and country. Oh yeah. That's what they say. It's God and country. Jesus Christ. And having the Holy Spirit. Listen, you got a spirit. Yeah, I don't know how set apart it is. Right? No. Because the origin of that was Hasatan. And it's still Hasatan, because he ain't gave it up. Listen. You better understand. He says, for the law having a shadow of good things to come, and not the very image of those things, can never with those sacrifices which were offered year by year continually make the comers thereunto perfect. For then would they not have ceased being offered, because the worshippers, once purged, should have no consciousness of sin. See, because that them sacrifices then remove the consciousness of sin. Hence the reason why Yahusha said, like people, like priests. Like priests, like priests, like people. Right? Because the priest wasn't teaching the people anything, and they wasn't removing their sins. They weren't doing what they needed to do ceremonially to keep themselves in that position. So Yahushua says, I'm gonna nix that. I have a priest forever. After you order Melchizedek, Yahushua, my son, he's that priest. I'm nixing. I'm amending the order. I'm changing the priesthood. Yeah. So you ain't going to be able to turn to me. Yeah, don't come to me talking about we worship and turn to Yah only. It ain't possible. Because the priesthood has been done. No, the priesthood has decayed. It has faded away. Aaron's priesthood. And Yahuwah said he was going to do it. I just read it to you in Hosea. He says, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, because they have rejected knowledge. I will also reject thee and thou shalt be no priest. It's a wrap. Right? You shall not be a priest to me, seeing thou hast forgotten the Torah of thy Elohiym. I will forget thy children. I will also forget thy children. He's talking about the priest. He says, seeing that thou hast forgotten me, right? You shall be no priest no more to me, because you have forgotten my laws, right? And I will also forget your children. Levitical priesthood. Concerning my services, I've forgotten them. That's why this Melchizedek order is the only order that's going to establish Yahuwah's kingdom in the Eretz. You know, it was good to know that the Limba were Limba. That they had the traditions, right? But without Hamashiach, they still in pursuit of a order that is non-existent. They don't. You don't have a holies of holies. You don't have a tabernacle, and you can't use a synagogue. You can't establish a place that Yahuwah hasn't placed His name. Hebrews. He says, but in those sacrifices there's a remembrance of sin every year. Yes, it is. For it is not possible for the blood of bulls and of goats to take away sins. There you have it. Wherefore when he cometh into the world, he saith, sacrifices and offering thou wouldest not, but a body thou hast prepared for me. Right? You needed someone to die in their place. And it had to be me, right? Burnt offerings and sacrifices of sin, thou hast no pleasure. You ain't had no pleasure in all them goats and calves and all that stuff that they were sacrificing for. Then said I, lo, I come in the volume of the book. Who? Lo, I come in the volume of the book. Yahusha. Lo, I come in the volume of the book. Right? 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 Psalms 40 and 5. Many, O Yahuwah, my Elohiym, are thy wondrous works which thou hast done, and thy thoughts which are towards us. They cannot be reckoned up in order unto thee. If I would declare and speak them, they are more than can be numbered. Of course, right? He says, sacrifices and offering thou didst not require. No, thou didst not desire. I'm sorry, right? Because he required them, but he didn't want them, right? My ears hast thou opened. Burnt offering and sin offering hast thou not required. Right? 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 And said I come in the volume of the book, and it is written of me. I come in the volume of the book. I am of the Melchizedek priesthood. I am that order of Yahuwah. I am he who you have sworn and will not repent. That I am a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. I am in the volume of the book. Right? Psalms 140. Psalms 40 and 8. 40 and 7. I delight to do thy will, O Elohiym. Yea, thy law is within my heart. Yahuwah was the Word made flesh. In Yahuwah's heart was the Torah of truth. Yahuwah was the Word of Yahuwah. He said, listen. He says, verse 10, by the which will we are sanctified through the offering of the body. We are sanctified through the offering of the body of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach once and for all. Right? We are sanctified. Right? Yahushua says, Yahuwah says in Ezekiel 36 and 23, I will sanctify my great name, Yah salvation, Yahusha. I will sanctify my great name, which was profaned amongst the heathen. The heathen took the name of Yahusha and made Jesus and profaned it. I will sanctify my great name, Yahusha. The heathen took his name and profaned it, Jesus. They gave it a graven image. They put it on a cross. They took this cross and conquered people. He took this cross and persecuted people. The Spanish Inquisition persecuted Hebrews. The edicts from the Pope. The edicts. The papal bulls. The papal bulls, paper bulls. Yahuwah sanctify his great name. The heathens profaned it, attached Jesus to it, and made everybody bow to the image of Caesarea Borgia. They profaned his name, but we did it first because we didn't receive the witness of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. He said, but he's going to sanctify his great name. And the heathens. And the heathens shall know that I am Yahuwah, the Adonai Elohiym, which shall sanctify, which when I sanctify in you before their eyes, that I, Yahuwah, saith the Adonai Elohiym, when I shall sanctify you before their eyes. He sanctified us by sprinkling water on us and cleansing us from our filth. He sanctifies by putting a new heart in us and giving us his Ruach HaKodesh, taking the stony heart out of the flesh and giving us a heart of flesh, right? By putting his Ruach HaKodesh in us and causing us to keep his statutes, right? Keep his statutes, right? Yahuwah. He says, by the which will we are sanctified through the offering of the body of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach once. That's it. Yahushua ain't going in but once. It's only necessary for him to go in once. He says, and every priest standeth daily ministering and offering oftentimes same sacrifices which can never take away sins. That's what the priests did because they had to, because they had a consciousness of sin. In order to be effective for Yahuwah, they had to do this. And even in that, they weren't effective because they didn't continue in it. We just read that in Hosea 4. They didn't do it. Like people, like priests. My people, Hosea 4 and 6, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Right? Because they won't retain knowledge. Right? Because thou hast rejected knowledge, priest. I will also reject thee, that thou shalt not be priest. Priest to me. Seeing that thou hast forgotten my Torah of the Elohiym, I will also forget thy children. Ooh, listen, the Levitical priesthood is still a tribe of Levi. But he's forgotten their priesthood. Listen, line upon line, precept upon precept. He says, and every priest standeth daily ministering and offering oftentimes the same sacrifices which can never take away sin. But this man, after he had offered one sacrifice for sin, forever sat down at the right hand of Elohiym. Right? Henceforth, expecting till his enemies be made his footstool. Psalms 110. And Yahuwah said unto Yahusha, sit thou at my right hand till I make thy enemies thy footstool. Line upon line, precept upon precept. He says, for by one offering haveth he perfected forever them that are sanctified. Forever them that are sanctified. Whereof the Ruach HaKodesh also is the witness to us. For after that he had said before, a witness, right? There's three witnesses in the Eretz: the Ruach HaKodesh, the water, and the blood. There's three witnesses in the Shamayim: Abba Father, the Word, and the Ruach HaKodesh. These three agree in the Shamayim to what occurred in the Eretz. The Ruach HaKodesh witnesses this in us, in earthen vessels. Right? It establishes us. Right? The Ruach HaKodesh witness to us. Ruach HaKodesh is in us as a witness to us. For after that he had said before, this is the covenant that I will make with them after those days, the days that we're in. Saith Yahuwah, I will put my laws in their heart. What we just read in Ezekiel. A new heart also will I give you, and a new Ruach HaKodesh. This is the same thing we just read. I will put it within you, and I will take away the stony heart out of your flesh, and I will give you a heart of flesh. I will put my Ruach HaKodesh in you, and it will cause you to walk in my statutes and keep my judgments and do them. Right? Right? He says, whereof the Ruach HaKodesh also witnesses to us, for after that he hath said before, right? This is the covenant that I make with them after those days, saith Adonai. I will put my laws in their hearts, and write them in their minds. Will I write them? And their sins and their iniquities will I remember no more. See, the Levitical priesthood was flawed. It was just a mirror. It was just a shadow, wasn't it? It was a shadow. Right? It was a shadow. Right. And the shadow is there as long as there is light. But once the light is taken off of it, the shadow is no more. The light was taken off of that and put on Yahusha solely, because he was the priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. He is the original priesthood without beginning. beginning or end. He is that priesthood that is after the order of Melchizedek, that gave wine and bread to IVRIYM. He is the King of peace, the King of Jerusalem, Salem, right? He is the King of righteousness. He is Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. He says, and their remission of sins is there no more offering for sins, right? He says, having therefore, brethren, boldness to enter into the holies of holies by the blood of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach, by a new and living way, which he hath consecrated for us. See, because now, see, we can go into the holies of holies. He's consecrated a new way. See, because it's in us. The tabernacle is in us. See, we can commune with him in the Ruach HaKodesh. We can pray in the Ruach. We can sing in the Ruach. We can pray with our understanding. We can sing with our understanding. We can get before him and meditate in the Ruach HaKodesh and be in the presence of Yahuwah. And the only way we've been able to do that is by the covenant that Yahushua has established as the priesthood order of Melchizedek, entering once into the Shamayim for alls to take away the consciousness of sin, because now he is taking it away from us and put in us a heart of flesh, right? A heart after the Ruach HaKodesh, him and the Father, the Ruach HaKodesh in us that changes us from the inside out. Right? See, and now we don't have a desire to sin because, you know, we have been changed. We were once dead, but now we've been quickened. We have been made alive in Hamashiach. Right? By the new and living way, he is the way, the truth, and the life. He is the living Torah, which he hath consecrated for us. He has consecrated this way for us. Through the veil. He went into the veil, the holiest of all, in the Shamayim. Right? That is to say his flesh. His flesh. He took his flesh in the holies of holies and established an eternal covenant, having sprinkled his blood on the altar. He said, let us draw near with a true heart, in full assurance of faith, having our hearts sprinkled from an evil conscience. Yeah, see, my conscience is clear. Yeah, it ain't evil, right? I received the witness. Our bodies washed with pure water. Yahushua said, you have to be born again of the water and the Ruach HaKodesh, having received his blood. That's why Yahushua was sprinkled. Listen, you gotta understand, this is the way. This is the witness of Yahushua. This ain't Christianity. This ain't being born again like they did it. They didn't know what they was doing. They took the shadow and really jacked it up. Right. He said, let us draw near with a true heart and full assurance of faith, having our hearts sprinkled from an evil conscience and our bodies washed with pure water. Let us hold fast the profession of our faith without wavering. Right? Let's hold fast this witness. Because we profess that we've received the witness of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. We profess that we have the Ruach HaKodesh. We profess that we have been given the kingdom of Yahuwah and Elohiym by his witness. Listen, we got to hold fast our confession, right? For he is faithful that promised. What did he promise us? He has promised us to enter into his rest. He's promised us Shiloh. He's promised the gathering of his people. He's promised the restoring a kingdom. He's promised his prosperity. The wealth of the wicked is laid up for the just. He said the sinners had the task of gathering up to hand it over to us. This is what he's promised us. He said, let us consider one another and provoke unto love and good works. That's what we should be doing, especially us who have received the witness. Now, everybody else, they ain't gonna get it because they don't have Yahusha's, they don't have his testimony. You don't have Yahusha's testimony. This ain't even possible. You can't even bring this to pass. This ain't gonna happen for you. But if you have the witness of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach, you can make this happen. Right? You can make this happen. This could be a part of you. This could be a part of you. He said, listen, let us consider one another to provoke unto love, right? And to good works, right? Not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together. Now listen. Because we love one another in this witness, we need to continue to make sure that we have fellowship with one another. We need to make sure that we stay connected with one another, right? We need to assemble with one another if it's at all possible. See, and the thing is now we can fellowship and assemble and not always necessarily be there, because you know what? That's what they made possible with things like this, right? You can Zoom now. We Zoom, right? Because, you know, people are in different locations, you know. I mean, eventually, you know, you got to go in and baptize people and go to places, but initially, it is what it is. You know, you don't have to forsake the assembling of yourself together with fellowship with brethren. Now, I mean, listen. You can fellowship. The Ruach HaKodesh is not limited to time and space. It's not limited to a locale. I mean, good. It's good to assemble, right, as an assembly, right? But you can assemble anytime, anywhere, anyway, now almost, right? He says, and forsake not the assembling of yourselves together as the manner of some, but exhorting one another, so much the more as seeing the day approaching. So listen, as you see this day approach, make sure you stay together, connected, assembled, you know, encouraging one another in the Basar and the Torah of truth, right? You know, encouraging one another to walk out, to stay faithful to the end, to endure to the end, right? To persevere to the end. Listen, because this is what this is. We gonna stop here. We still ain't got through the 10th chapter. 10th chapter. We still got probably another 13, 14 more verses. But we're going to stop now. Yahuwah, I give you praise for your word of truth, your Ruach HaKodesh of truth. I give you praise for the revelation of your word, the Ruach of wisdom and revelation and the knowledge of you. I thank you that the eyes of our understanding are being enlightened, and we know the hope of our calling. We know what the riches of the glory of the inheritance is in us as the Kodeshim. We understand this, Yahuwah, having received the witness of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. We have a promise of entering into your rest, and we thank you, Yahuwah, for that rest. We have a promise of being gathered unto you, Shiloh. Yahuwah, I give you praise, I give you praise, I give you praise, I give you praise. I pray for my Hebrew brothers that they would wake up to the witness, that they would wake up and receive the witness of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach and be established. I pray that they would be established, Yahuwah. In the name of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach, I pray they would be established. I pray for those specifically, Yahuwah, that you have chosen to receive this witness, that they would grow in grace and in emunah and be established in your Basar and your Torah of truth. I pray, Yahuwah, in the name of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. And Yahuwah, I pray that the words of my mouth and meditation of my heart would be acceptable in thy sight, that your people would continue in this witness, that you would continue to keep me as I minister your word in Ruach and in truth. Word of my mouth, meditation of my heart, be acceptable in thy sight. Yahuwah, my strength and my redeemer. In the name of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach, I pray. Man of Yah, woman of Yah, that's it. Word of Yahuwah has gone forth. Yeah, it has. Yeah, it has. The word of Yahuwah has gone forth. And I pray right now in the name of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach again that you would receive his witness and recognize that you are called to greatness. Man of Yah, woman of Yahuwah, you're beautifully and wonderfully made. You know, don't let this thing slip. That promise of entering into his rest, don't let that get away. Listen, because we have a faithful high priest who is passing to the Shamayim, Yahusha Ha'Mashiach. He is the priest of an everlasting covenant, an everlasting priesthood, an everlasting established order And we are his, and we need to walk in it. So, man of Yah, woman of Yah, listen, with that I say, walk in the witness of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach, be led by the Ruach HaKodesh, and experience the peace of Yahuwah. With that, shalom, shalom, and shalom. Torah Garden, speaking the absolute truth. Torah Nation.